Good evening. The dialogue regarding improving school safety and culture is just one part of our district's broader vision for building systems that strengthen school climate, as well as moving away from punitive practices and working instead to enhance our students' ability to succeed both inside and outside of our school walls. Our process or theory of action toward this effort is working to change our policies, shifting our practices, strengthening our partnerships, and providing schools with the resources, tools, and supports to succeed. Our goal is to create the conditions for learning by building stronger relationships between the adults and students in our school buildings, fostering positive relationships between students and their peers, and disrupting what is known as the school-to-prison pipeline based on punitive practices to discipline. Our goal is to create safe and supportive school environments throughout the entire district. For the 2013-14 school year, we will work to convene school and district staff, students, parents, first responders, and mental health and social service providers to develop a comprehensive interdepartmental and interagency plan. The goal of that plan is to first identify the trends in school violence and disruptions, develop evidence-based strategies for prevention, and to decrease the number of incidents of school violence and disruptions. Our efforts are to increase...
Excuse me,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, that is right. Here I go. I will ask you again to stop yelling out and allow the presentation to be finished. This is a state-mandated presentation, and if you are signed up to speak, you will be able to comment on any part of the presentation.
Our goal is to... I'm sorry. You got it.
Please stop yelling out.
Increase the percentage of students and staff who report feeling safe at school. Decrease the number of school-based arrests for non-violent offenses through diversionary programs. And by diversionary programs, we mean programs that hold youth accountable while still diverting them from punitive sanctions and instead guiding them toward restorative accountability measures. The example that you see on the board is Youth Court, and that's an example of just such a restorative justice peer accountability program. And lastly, to improve community relations and engagement of students and parents in promoting school safety. Our priorities fall under 5 key areas: policy, training, communication and coordination, technology, and data and accountability. Under our policies efforts, our priorities are to align school security policies with the shift to restorative practices and to promote alternatives to punitive discipline practices that criminalize students for disciplinary infractions. To support that effort, we are providing professional development and training our security personnel to proactively recognize signs of school violence and respond to the incidents effectively. Our efforts are to redefine the role of the school resource officers in schools to focus on law enforcement with a heavy emphasis on promoting positive behaviors through student programming and educating school staff on violence prevention strategies. And lastly, to improve proper documentation for compliance with state and federal reporting. Under communications and coordination, our priorities are to improve the communications protocols for crisis management and appropriate response to the incidents that happen in our school settings, to collaborate with the Newark Police Department and other local law enforcement agencies to improve and extend the district's ability to proactively prevent school violence and address community issues such as truancy. Technology upgrades are underway to more efficiently maintain safety in all of our schools. And lastly, around the area of data and accountability, we wish to establish a records management system for data analysis and regularly convene the school and district leaders to review that data, examine the trends so that our interventions can be targeted and the deployment of our resources can be effective and impactful. Oops. Staff training and accountability for incident reporting. Our efforts begin with our special assistants of operations, having already begun going out and providing training and support to our school leaders through leadership meetings and individualized support in the schools. Our security supervisors have already trained school personnel and provided on-site support to staff members and attended staff meetings to provide immediate assistance. Through my office, the Office of College and Career Readiness, we've trained all of our student support teams, including our school-level HIB or harassment, intimidation, and bullying specialist. And all of the incidents are reviewed at the network level by our special assistants of operation. That includes all investigations of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and the students receive the support directly from the student support teams at their school. Our violence, vandalism, substance abuse incident reports are reviewed by the safety office, and the district is exploring a computer-based reporting option. Rich?
So just go to the flowers, then one more after that.
One more.
So, as a result,
You have to press.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kukla, before you go on, could you just please just take a moment and introduce yourself to the audience? Because what they were saying is that some of them don't, they don't know who you are and your position. So thank you.
My apologies. My apologies. My name is Nadia Saeed, proud graduate of Science High School, class of '88. I am the Deputy Executive Director of the Office of College and Career Readiness.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
hello
Kukla.
everyone. I'm Rich Kukla. I'm the Director of Safety, and I'm a graduate of Barringer High School. So what you're looking at now is where we have measurable results from which she had just spoke about, from all of the level of accountability that we raised. We increased the level of supervision, and you see a downward trend in the incidents that are being reported to the state. As you look at our violence, this is compared to the same reporting period last year from September 1 to current date. We're down 40% in violence. We had a short spike in vandalism. Do you want to hear the presentation?
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, this is a state-mandated presentation, so we ask your indulgence for a few more minutes.
No, I know. So we had a reduction of 75% in the amount of weapons recovered. Our substance abuse is down 22%, and our harassment, intimidation, and bullying is down 87%. For a total of minus 47%.
Excuse me, please allow this report to be completed.
Just go back, no, go back one to the beginning one. So, there was a question that came up in the business meeting as to what a reporting incident consists of. And this is what we are required to report to the New Jersey State Department of Education. What constitutes a violence, vandalism, substance abuse incident? It's an incident that must take place on school grounds, at a school-sponsored event, or on a school bus. So what that means is there's got to be a school in session or a supervised event that's going on. So if a child or a student is robbed 5 blocks from the school, it's not a reportable incident to the state. However, it's reported to us, and we take an action. So this is a requirement from the state versus what we do to protect the kids. And that's what, a question that the board had, and that's what defines an incident.
One further...
Mr. Jackson, you should be aware of this because I told you it.
Madam Chair, if I
No,
may.
not Donna. Donald.
One final comment I would make. Madam Chair had asked about the difference between reporting and following up in the event that we believe incidences are occurring that are being underreported. And I would like to say that we still believe there are incidents that occur that are underreported. Although we have made progress, we wanted to add as part of this report that in the event that something occurs that does come up in, say, suspension data, or that we've heard that occurs elsewhere, there is a protocol by which the assistant superintendent follows up if we know something occurred and it has not been reported, then we take action in discussion with that principal, and it can be grounds for disciplinary action. We do take the notion of underreporting seriously, and we believe, just like lots of districts struggle with that, we still do, although we believe we have the steps in place to follow up in the event that that occurs. That concludes our presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Actually worked pretty well.
We would like to now move on to the next order of business for this evening, if we may do so. We would like to now move on to public participation.
This is the public participation portion of the meeting. As a reminder, time limits for all speakers are enforced. There is no sharing or granting of speaking time to others. Speakers must be present when their name is called. All speakers are required to give their names and addresses. The public participation portion of the meeting is limited to 1 hour and 30 minutes. Examples of unacceptable behavior that are not permitted include, but are not limited to, naming district employees and engaging in personal attacks, slurs, excessive loudness, calling out, yelling, generally disruptive behavior, attempting to disrupt the meeting, or inciting others to do so. Public participation at board meetings is intended to allow individual members of the public the opportunity to address the board and the administration on issues of public concern, not as a forum for two-way dialogue with the board members or district officials. The superintendent, designee, or chair may respond to questions either at the end of the public participation session, or responses may be provided at a later time. The superintendent, designee, or chair may interrupt any speaker or terminate any individual's speaking privilege if the speaker's comments are disruptive or obscene. An individual may be cautioned that a personally directed statement may be slanderous or defaming. An individual may be liable for his or her statements. Attempts to hijack or filibuster the proceedings, repeated interrupting or badgering the members, repetitive or truculent speech, or disregard of the rules of decorum are not tolerated and may subject the individual or group to removal from the meeting. And if necessary, the meeting may be adjourned.
Thank you. What you cannot do is disrupt the meeting and not allow the speaker who is called the opportunity to be heard. Just for clarity, there are 2 bells. The first rings after 2 minutes, and then there is 1 more minute, and then the second bell rings. And when that bell rings, it means that your time is actually finished. Our first 6 speakers are students, and we always allow students to go first. And we will proceed from there. Our first speaker is Aljanae Williams. Aljanae Williams. Next speaker, Jawad Williams. Next speaker, Anastasia Williamson. Next, I'm sorry, we can only go by the names that are on the list. Next speaker, Aisha Atkins Sims.
Hello, my My name is Aisha Sims Atkins, and I currently attend Science Park High School. I started off in the 7th grade, and I'm in the 10th. My first year there was torture. I wasn't used to all the works and so many students, but as time went by, things became easier, and everyone treated me like we were all family. There was no one left behind, and whenever I needed help, they would help me after school with no questions asked. Public schools aren't all about not having enough materials and not having enough teachers. It's about being a family and working together to try your best to be the best you can be. All my life, I have only gone to 2 public schools, and they have turned into my second home. Those teachers have become my parents, and those students and classmates have become my brothers and sisters. Being in a public school gets you ready for the real world. For being in a public school, the only bad part is not everyone has the same focus. Some may be focused on their future, some may be focused on the present, but not everyone has the same game plan. But those teachers help you to be the best you can be. Charter schools aren't going to make dropouts want to stay in school, and public schools aren't going to want to either. The only difference in public schools is that they push you, and charter schools aren't going to baby you. They will leave you behind even if you don't understand. My god sister goes to 13th Ave School, and she stays after school, and they help her with her homework and they also help her get activities that she wants to do. But school comes first, and that's all that's important. And if you close these schools down, what are people going to do? They're not going to want to go to these charter schools.
Thank you. Next speaker, Khadija Bati. Khadija? Okay, thank you. Next speaker, Joy Nicholson. Joy Nicholson. At this time, I'm going to actually exercise the chair's prerogative to allow Newark Municipal Council President Mildred Crump to speak.
Good evening, and thank you
Good evening.
so much, Madam President, for giving me the opportunity to speak to our state-appointed superintendent, to members of the Board of Education. I greet you as well. I stand before you as a teacher who has 42 years of tenure in the classroom. I had the district called Newark for 3 years. Those were the schools from the pre-K, kindergarten, through high school. I'd like to think that those years spent working in the district under excellent and incredible leadership from department heads gives me the right to stand here on tonight. I believed then, and I believe now, that the students of the Newark public school system deserve better than what they're getting right now, and I am prepared to step out of my comfort zone and my space to speak up for the students in Newark. Just an observation, Madam State Appointed Superintendent. If you wonder why the community disrespects you, how about because you disrespect us? Never mind in word and deed. I stopped coming. Is there a time limit? Nobody said anything.
Yeah, yes,
I didn't hear.
there is a time limit, but please proceed.
I did not hear it because you know, I chair a meeting, and I believe in following
No, the
protocol.
announcement was made that there is a 3-minute time limit.
Okay, I did not-
Excuse me. Excuse me, but you may proceed.
I shall not
Thank
be
you.
long, but I shall be strong. Not just in word and deed, but I find it offensive to sit in meetings, and not just this particular meeting, and watch you text while people are speaking. I have always planned to ask you, what was it? Is that the equivalent of taking notes? Because I'd like an answer. When people stand before me, I can honestly say that I respect their opinion enough to look at them and to listen at them. And so as a teacher, I had an opportunity to attend a meeting. I was invited for my input last night at Wequahic High School, along with Councilman Raz Baraka and others. As a teacher of special needs, I am trying to wrap my arms around how a recommendation could be to put the classes for the deaf and hard of hearing in technology high. That makes no sense. These are little guys and little gals, and as they grow up and mature, they need a small environment. You do have someone who is responsible for special needs. That's just one. Another question, does the dissolving of Newark Tech. Every student is not going to college. And there was a time when Newark Voc Tech provided an upward trajectory for students to a decent job, a decent way of living, because they went to Newark Voc Tech and they learned a skill. Why are we closing or dissolve? I'm not sure what dissolve means. Dissolving. Special ed is being dismantled. ESL and bilingual programs are being destroyed. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Please allow Council President to finish.
And so tonight, I'm going to spend my last few minutes, Madam President, talking about the new Civil War. And some of you got what I mean. The new Civil War. The historic Civil War of yesteryear was a fight over the bodies, the brawn, the muscle of human beings, particularly those of color. Every evil practice imaginable was perpetrated on their bodies and their minds, and they were helpless to change their circumstances and conditions. Well, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a new Civil War, and we better get ready for it. It's not just in Newark, it's in urban communities around this country. And we have been silent for far too long as it escalates out of control. And if we don't do something, we're going to lose the battle. So, it was designed to destroy the minds of our children. And I don't know about anyone else, but I cannot sit by any longer and say and do nothing. It's a diabolical plot by this superintendent to enter into this new Civil War. The South is represented by our superintendent, Commissioner Surf, former Mayor Cory Booker, he doesn't get a pass on this, and Governor Christie. They experiment with our children. with their circumstances, and it has got to stop. The North is represented by caring parents and families, caring teachers, community activists, even though they may become a little, frustrated, and for caring elected officials. And so, promises are made that are never going to be kept. Parents are forbidden to enter the school space and have a conversation with a teacher or observe their student. Dollars have been inappropriately assigned. There's an article in the New Jersey section of the Star Ledger that says, Newark teachers get little in merit pay. Only $1.3 million in performance bonuses from the $51 million in new money. Shame on them. Shame on them. Newark students can't shine because there's a barrel that's being put over them that's confining them and redefining for them what success is all about. And I am sick and tired of having fingers pointed at us, the community, saying it's our fault. It is not. It is not. This auditorium is not filled because people are here, because they don't care. And so they point the finger at us, forgetting that this district has been under state control for almost 2 decades. And so I'm ready to toss off the mantle of blame. I'm not accepting the blame anymore. They lost the South lost the first Civil War. Signed Emancipation Proclamation. This is an historic year, 150 years. But with the help of God, Newarkers and people who really care, and you don't have to live in Newark to really care. There are some people who live outside the city of Newark who care more than you do when you have a Newark address. But with the help of God, Newarkers and people who really care about Newark, we're going to win the new Civil War.
Thank you, Council President Crump. At this time, before we move on, because I want to be sure that I extend the same courtesy to any other elected officials who are here to speak this evening on these urgent matters. Are there any other elected officials who wish to be recognized at this time? Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Councilman.
Good evening.
I just want to say that, of course, with all due respect, that we certainly, want to allow you to speak, but just that there are about 30 or so other speakers. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I don't plan to be long, like my council colleague said, but we plan to be strong. Is that right? So I'm also a product of Newark Public Schools, so I just want to say that first, that I went to Newark Public Schools my entire life, from Madison Avenue School to Clinton Place Junior High School. Madison Avenue, by the way, that's slated to be closed. University High School, graduate from University High School, and came back and joined the Newark Board of Education then, and have been an employee of Newark Public Schools for about 22 years. So I think that qualifies me to at least having an opinion, right, about what I think is happening here that surmounts to me as a direct attack on the South Ward. I look at it that way as the South Ward councilman. So I think the first mistake is that we are rolling out a plan without any significant input from the community. And I think that is fundamentally what the problem is, right? So there is no discussion from the community whatsoever. I just left Hawthorne Avenue School that's filled in a gym with a bunch of irate parents who, in fact, choose to go to Hawthorne Avenue School. So when you say that there's school choice and you tell parents, and I had the same discussion with some parents at Avon, if you tell parents that they have a choice, they have to fill out these forms and they could choose any school they want to go to, what if they choose to stay at Hawthorne Avenue School? So if they choose to stay and cannot, does that undermine the idea of school choice? Right, so in fact it does. If you tell parents that we're going to give this school to team and create this kind of false conflict between a charter and a public school where they're now fighting over buildings and space that the state, by the way, has reneged on building buildings for us, has reneged on improving building space for us, has reneged on all those promises. The governor, Christie, has cut millions of dollars from public school, and then we created an initial problem by developing an EWPS list, which puts 2 employees on one pay line, which creates another financial crisis in the city. So you can't create a financial crisis and then say we have one and so we should sell buildings because we have a financial crisis, right? So we create the problem and now we falsify a problem, then we create the solution to the problem at the same time, and the problem and the solution is both mounted up against us. So these kinds of things deserve at least some level of input. You can't speak to ministers, speak to a few people in the community and say you had community input. That is completely disrespectful, right? That's not community input. You can't speak to mayoral candidates, ministers, and a few leaders of the community and say that's community. And real community input is going into the community and having the meetings with the parents. Not today, because there's simultaneous meetings going out, so it's a rollout. This is not the invention of a program. So lastly, I just want to say we are putting all of our eggs in one basket. So we are getting behind ideas and programs that have not been proven. These are things that are happening around the country that actually have not been proven to work. The universal enrollment is a test, right? So this is something that we're trying to do. So even if we roll that out, why roll that out and close schools simultaneously? So now you're creating this kind of tension that you would see in this audience. It's not the people that are crazy, they're responding to stimulus, right? So they're responding to the fact that you are doing something to them. So when you smack a baby's hand, they cry. Then you can't get angry at the baby because they cried after you smacked their hand. Right? So all of these programs to me are untested, they're unreliable, and to be honest, if you want to be honest with parents, there's no way to assure that schools will not put kids out after the October 15th report, that schools will not put kids out. There's no way to say that. There's no way to prove that will happen, right? I know we have relationships with the governor and we can circumvent the law in ways that we think, but people will take us to court. These things will happen, and we're going to have to answer for it even after Christie is gone, even after we have a new state-appointed superintendent. Even after these things happen, the people in this city are still going to have to respond and answer to the problems that have been created in this city, right? So that's why people are here this evening. And I just want to say, when you remove the 9th graders from Weequahic High School, you're not changing the school, you're closing it, right? So they did the same thing to Central High. I'm sorry, Ms. Baxter-Richardson. They did the same thing at Central High. They removed the 9th graders, and before you know it, the school was becoming depopulated. The parents fought, and they brought the school back. Not only did they bring the school back, they got a brand new school building. So the possibility of saving a school and getting a new building does not mean that you have to give it away, right? So it can happen. Not only did it happen, but the school began to transform itself, so it began to move upward in terms of an upward trajectory. If a CEO was brought to any private company to save a company, they don't save the company by selling off all of its assets, right? You don't do it that way. We searched all over the country for a superintendent that would improve Newark schools, not close the schools and sell the buildings, right? So, if you close the schools and sell the buildings, that's an admittance of failure.
Thank you, Councilman Baraka. Our next speaker, I'm sorry.
Madam President Baskerville, my name is Reverend Grady James. I'm the president of the Baptist Ministers Conference of Newark and vicinity. I'm a graduate of Avon Avenue School, Clinton Place Junior High, Weequahic High School, class of 1963.
Excuse me, sir. I just want to clarify, and I will let you speak, but just for future speakers, I just want to clarify that the exception that I made was for public elected officials, but I will certainly allow you to speak at this time. But the exception was made, and in addition, there's an exception made for Mr. Joseph Del Grasso, who is the president of the Newark Teachers Union, and who will speak immediately following you. And I will have to ask you if you could please adhere to the 3 minutes, because once we reach a certain point, we do have to stop the public participation. So you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, President Baskerville. I'm going to focus my comments on Hawthorne Avenue School. We heard much discussion about access for families. And this being a data-driven district, seems not to consider the data regarding Hawthorne Avenue School's performance by their students. On the 2013 NJ Ask Language Arts Literacy, Hawthorne Avenue School was the only school whose student performance improved and met the school's target in English and in language arts. On the New Jersey Ask Mathematics, Hawthorne Avenue School was the only school whose student performance improved, and the school actually exceeded the state's target by 11 points. Finally, on the New Jersey Ask, Hawthorne Avenue School's growth is among the top 2 schools in the district. Having said that, the data clearly shows that the school's leadership has a plan in place to move students in the direction of excellence. The question then is, what is the district's rationale for closing a school where the leadership, faculty, and staff working synergistically together with the community is slated to be reassigned and broken up? The data shows that Hawthorne Avenue School has no literacy coordinator, no math specialist, no technology coordinator, no guidance counselor, and it's in a building that's deemed beyond repair. Yet, despite that, the principal, faculty, and staff have worked together with the community and brought about excellent results. The data shows that when the administration, faculty, staff, and community works together, you get positive results in the school. I'm almost done. If the building is beyond repair, why isn't the district making the school a re-site to keep the staff and students who are performing well together? Lastly, can the district superintendent's office shared the 2013 student achievement data from the renewed schools to support their effectiveness as justification for dismantling so many existing schools. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Joseph Del Grasso, President, Newark Teachers Union.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I begin, I just wanted to make reference to that. Many years ago, I visited a school in Italy. It was in Rome. It was an elementary school. It was built during the time of the Roman Empire. They seem to be able to keep that one up.
I know that's
A
right.
book was written called War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. And later a remake of that was made into a movie, and it was filmed right on Ferry Street. Now, we're making a new movie right here in Newark. It's called Invasion of the School Snatchers. You blink and your school's gone. Schools are more than brick and mortar, but rather a part of the rich history of our Newark. Would real Newarkers really want to give up their heritage? I think not. So to do this benevolent deed, you'd have to get somebody who's not a Newarker to be able to do it. And there they are, like thieves in the night, in an alleyway, splitting up the booty. They say it's good for you. And guess what? Father knows best. And it's best for you. This is a war, and it's a war about public education, as other speakers have noted. A conquest over public education. The tools of conquest are not necessarily come with bombs, explosions, or fallout. There are weapons that are simple thoughts, attitudes, prejudice, to be found only in our minds. Prejudice can kill, and suspicion can destroy. And a thoughtless, frightened search for a scapegoat called the Newark Public Schools, our schools, has fallout. And that fallout extends to our children and the children of the yet unborn. We cannot accept, and as far as the takeover, we cannot accept a partial withdrawal of power. We want complete authority over our public schools, and I know you're doing a good job trying to negotiate that. However, keep in mind that Rosa Parks would not have been satisfied sitting in the middle of the bus. When it comes to making decisions about the Newark Public Schools, the people that should do it are Newarkers. It's their schools, and it's their choices. There's a school, one of the schools that you auctioned off, 18th Avenue, had a great saying over that school. It says, "Beyond these doors is a public school, the last bastion of democracy." It's not a charter school, but now it will be. It was sold to a company called Pink Hula Hoop. Yeah, for $4.3 million. They turned it over to another company called Ashland Realty. They got it for about $10 million. Now Team Academy owns it, and both Pink Hula Hoop and Ashland, their address is 60 Park Place. You think there was any conspiracy? What befuddles me is that, let us say for argument's sake that you're right and the population declined and we need to get rid of the Newark Public Schools. Well, why wouldn't Newark own the schools? I would think that the city council should say, these schools belong to us. They're Newark property, and they are the property of the taxpayer. They're not for you to sell to your friends. I say, the thing that we need most in this system is a superintendent that would stand for its public schools. I would say for $300,000, the charters are certainly getting their money's worth.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Christine Taylor, President of CASA.
With all due respect, I am an elected official.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But your name was already on the list.
I know. But on Sunday, I usually take my clothes out for the week, and this Sunday I took out all red because I figured I would be in the Christmas spirit this week. However, being here tonight, I realized that this red isn't for Christmas. This red is for blood. The bloodbath that's being cast upon the people and the children of Newark. This district isn't just bleeding, it's hemorrhaging. Now I have some prepared words. Some 60 years ago, a political tyrant rose up in this country. For a few years, much harm was done. A similar situation is taking place in our city, affecting those in our schools and community. Finally, those many years ago, a brave man confronted that tyrant with the words, "Until this moment, I think I have never really gauged your cruelty or your recklessness. You've done enough. At long last, have you no sense of decency?" To this administration, I repeat these words. Have you no decency? Members of the Newark community, administrators, teachers, concerned citizens, members of the Board of Education, consider what has taken place. The governor has said, we run these school districts, not them. The superintendent has written regarding our students that when students are idle or not in school, crime goes up. I am here as a graduate of the Newark Public Schools, a lifelong educator in the Newark Public Schools, and also the president of CASA, which represents all the administrators in the city. Unfortunately, now it's only the school-based committee because the superintendent has declared a war on unions in this city. But tonight, I want to speak clearly, strongly, and passionately in opposition to the so-called, quote, reform and transformational plans of the superintendent. As so many more schools are to be closed and replaced with charter schools, these plans must be seen for what they actually are: a move to destroy the public education of the city of Newark and to place as many schools as possible in control of outside interests and corporations. The superintendent cannot produce documented proof or reliable test data which provides evidence of student success under her watch. She and her many outside highly paid consultants have no vested interest in our students. They are here to dismantle and destroy our schools. As we mourn and honor the life of Nelson Mandela, I urge the Board of Education and all elected leaders of the city of Newark to truly honor his memory for what he believed and the measure he took to accomplish his goals. We need a peaceful but powerful call to action. I urge you to lead a public revolt against the tyranny of the unholy alliance between and among the superintendent, the commissioner, and the governor. They want to devoid and destroy the Newark Public Schools and the people of Newark under the masquerade of their version of school reform. The Board of Education has courageously taken action by voting no confidence in the superintendent and her mentors. And tonight I call on them, the mayor of Newark, all of Newark's elected officials, and the people of Newark to reject the occupation of our city by these outside corporate raiders and to begin a people's movement of action to return our schools to our children, our parents, and the citizens of Newark. For all here tonight and to our city, I say silence is perceived as agreement and approval. Tyrants rely on silence. Our silence, your fear must end. You must make your voices heard. Express your outrage. Swamp the superintendent and her associates with daily telephone calls. Email, write, call your legislators. Attend rallies, bring friends and neighbors. And yes, we must go out on the streets for rallies and demonstrations when asked. Your future and that of our children is at stake. United we stand, divided we shall not fall, because we shall not be divided. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Before we go on, I just want to make everyone aware that we do have a 3-minute limit for each speaker, and we have 25 speakers left on the list. Before we proceed, I would just like to acknowledge the presence of 2 former superintendents of the Newark Public Schools, Ms. Deborah Terrell and Ms. Marion Bolden, who are in the audience with us today. At this time, I would like to call our next speaker. Our next speaker Mr. Darren Martin.
Darren Martin, 43 Sanford Place. Let me get right to it. These last-minute meetings that's called community meetings, is really done without ample notice, and is really by design, so people wouldn't make it to tonight's meeting. So we should boycott those meetings. Number 2, at Alexander Street School tonight, I got a call from some of the parent leaders there that the meeting they had there, that parents was told to stand in the hallway. I mean, they weren't even ready for the parents. I mean, another way to disrespect the parents in this community. No chairs to sit down is just amazing to me. Next, you guys may be one Newark, but we're one community standing against you, Cammy, to get you the hell out of here.
Mr. Martin, I would just like to caution you about your language. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Our network of parent leaders have been dispatched throughout this city to make sure we remove Cammy out of here, so we cannot let up. Next. So Ivy's on my school, Ivy Hill Elementary, is on the list. I have 2 kids there. I'm the PTO president there. We're on the list to be redesigned. They're using a lot of code words, guys. Don't fall for the code words. We passed every benchmark we needed to pass there. There's no redesign that's going to happen at Ivy. You send somebody there, I'm going to kick them out. Don't let these money-hungry gangsters in suits come inside your school without questioning them. I question everybody that comes in Ivy. Everybody. They don't like it? Too bad. Don't come there. 107 Ivy Street, I control. That's our school. That's not Cammy's school. It's not Christie's school. Don't let them walk in your school without questioning every single person from 2 Cedar Street. Don't let them walk in your school. Throw their butts out. Next. Parents, you guys got to stand up. Donald was right earlier when he said we wouldn't be in this predicament if parents came to more meetings. You guys got to get involved and start coming out. You can't wait until the 11th
Mr. Martin,
hour.
please address the dais.
I am. You're here
Thank
now,
you.
and I'm happy to see you, but you guys got to keep coming. Now, it's time for us to get the Department of Justice in here because what they're doing is illegal. That's what we have to do. We got to get the Department of Justice in here. We got to get the Department of Wage and Hour in here because what's going on is people not being paid for overtime and unions. I'm going to say it again. I'm a union guy. I love unions. Unions, stand your butts up. Y'all got to start standing up. Some of you guys are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You need to stand up. You collecting dues, represent your members. I know some people ain't going to like that, but I don't care. Next, this woman, Cammie Anderson, sneaks in and out of meetings all the time with her little security. She's not personable. She don't talk to anybody. We need to make sure we start occupying her house. Let's go protest in front of her house. That's what needs to happen. Finally.
Mr. Martin, thank you very much, Mr.
Cammie
Martin.
must go. No justice, no peace.
Mr.
No
Martin.
justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Next speaker, Deborah Smith Gregory.
Deborah Smith Gregory. I serve as the president of the Newark NAACP, 454 Washington Street. My comments are directed to the advisory board. Last month, I gave each of you a copy of my presentation, including the student rep. And I asked, these are the questions that I asked. Can the board find out and get a reason why the students at Barringer High School and West Side are being dismissed on Fridays at 12:45? Can we get a written statement, graduation report for the total amount of Newark school students who graduated in June and August, the ELL students? Asked for the standardized test scores. Asked for what was the total number of student slots that were cut from the after-school program, and why were the 6 to 8 programs cut? This is for the advisory board. This is what I received. Please be advised that you must submit an official Oprah request to have your questions addressed. Any future questions made either by you directly or on behalf of your organization, the NAACP, must be processed in this manner. Now, I asked for the advisory board, you are our voice. I asked the advisory board, can we get some answers to these questions? And this is what was given. Now, that one Newark, again, the Ross Danis, the executive director of the Newark Education Trust, did one of those one Newark rollout. And here are some of the questions that were asked. This memorandum of understanding between the charter schools and the Newark public schools, we want to know what's in it. The 27 charter schools that are in Newark, which ones signed up? The superintendent said 21 of them signed up but never named who they were. The question was, what happens to the current applications for the middle school students going to high schools such as science, technology, university, American history, early college? What was it about the charter schools being in alignment since they had middle schools too? And to the chairperson's credit, we do need to listen to what she's saying, because that is the only way that the board and the community can fight this. She has slapped down her cards and she has said, I declare war. That is what she's done. And the only way, the advisory board, we need you to ask those hard-hitting questions. Why should we have to Oprah what is the graduation rate and why our babies cannot go to an after-school site from 6 to 8 p.m.? And why is the Newark Evening School being closed down? We need you to ask those questions. We need you to be our voices, because how it's working now is that we can protest and we can get up here and jump up and down and holler and go whatever, every which way direction. The superintendent has been trained to receive all of this. We need you to get us some answers so that we can work together, because we all stand together. The community, the parents, the advisory board, we all stand together. We stand
Thank you,
together.
Ms. Gregory. Next speaker. Next speaker, Charles Webb. Jalissa Vasquez. Is she here?